Jersey Turnpike, they've all come to look for America. All come to look for America. All come to look for America.
There are 26 million poor Americans and 175 million who are not poor, and many of both are empty and aching and don't know why. Vista is some 6,000 realistic dreamers who work and live with the poor for a year or two. Michael Harrington, the author of The Other America, was an early volunteer before there was a Vista.
I was about 21 at the time. It changed my life. But if I really needed it, I could pick up a phone, call my parents in St. Louis, and get $500 quick, which the guys from the Bowery could not do. They didn't have that kind of a phone number.
A Fortune magazine poll shows that 40% of the college kids are so used to money that money no longer turns them on. They are moved by the idea of service, of doing something with their lives. But all Vista volunteers are not young, and all are not from backgrounds of plenty. Leah Heine, a woman in her 50s, grew up in Europe in the chaos of war. As a Vista, she worked with poor farm workers and laborers in the South.
There are such rewarding experiences. And becoming acquainted with the people and knowing the decency and the goodness in them, knowing how they have taken you in, you can't let them down. They become your friends, and you have something where you know you can help them, something that they don't know.
The Vista who grew up poor in the community where he serves has a special ability to talk and listen to the poor in their own language, the experience of having lived through it himself.
Everyone felt that you were born in the neighborhood, you stayed in the neighborhood, and you died in the neighborhood. During the time we lived on 14th Street, we and all the kids in the neighborhood had about the same situation. A mother and no father, or grandparents and no mother or father. And very often, as my family was, there were 2 or 3 brothers and sisters together, while 1 or 2 others were living with the other relatives, if not in reform schools for various things and training schools because they were problem kids in the neighborhood.
Randy Kinder was a Vista in Denver, working with the juvenile court. He understands the problems of being a member of a minority group.
I think most people, when they, in poverty, they stay there the rest of their lives. There's not that much opportunity, especially for a black man. But I think something that Dr. King said a long time ago, as long as one black person is being oppressed, and all of us are being oppressed.
The skill of Randy Kinder is the skill of the insider. The skill of some Vistas is more specific. They are lawyers, architects, business school graduates, health specialists, teachers, and generalists. The person with training has something to give. It is often that simple. The poor man may have everything else he needs, intelligence and determination, but he may not know how to borrow money at fair interest, how to obtain his legal due, how to get enough food for himself and his family. The Vista is there to give. He is also there to learn.
For the first time in my life, suddenly there I was actually going into tenements, discovering that poverty stinks. I think one aspect of poverty that no amount of television documentaries can convey is the fact that it smells terribly badly, especially in the city, where slum tenements tend to be filled with dead rats and stopped-up toilets and cooking smells and God knows what else.
He learns that poverty scars children.
Charles was a beautiful child, and so was John. I said that he didn't look at me. He couldn't look at my eyes. And when he read, he could barely speak. It was graspy. So tight were his throat muscles, and so frightened. But he came because he was sent by the teacher. So I tried to put no pressure on him at all. But still, I could not get him to look at me and talk to me. Then I brought in another child, so we had two from his class, a little girl. And he would talk to her. He would answer her. And she noticed that there was a toy telephone on a shelf, part of the science equipment. You know, it was broken. But she said, I want to talk to him. And he took the receiver, you see, and she pretended to have one. So the two of them would talk and have a conversation. And then I said, now, Charles, I'll give you my telephone number, and you call me. And when he went home, he called me, and he could talk to me. And from then on, it got better. He could talk to me.
The Vista learns that the simple explanations for poverty are not true.
Mothers will say to me, I wish my daughter could be a secretary. And that's something that is said with a great deal of hope and with a great deal of, you know, that's a high aspiration, that she could be a secretary in an office. They don't understand that a college education or getting a better job is not really a reality. There's a cloud cover which is over a ghetto, which limits people's vision of what things are realities, what things they can do.
The Vista learns the way other people live.
The only problem came when we would get to school and would get our little Dick and Jane books, and suddenly you're seeing a nice family that's dressed decently, and the kids have toys and little puppy dogs, and your mother and father dress all your brothers and sisters and carry you to church every Sunday, and this just didn't happen with us.
The Vista learns...
The first question that people ask an ex-Vista is, especially someone who is working in a black area or in a minority area, as I was, did you have troubles being accepted? This is the big worry, that there's going to be a lot of hostility and people won't accept you because you're white. Well, it's true. You are tested a great deal because you're a symbol of the white middle class, comfortable life, which they don't have. But you're tested to see if you're for real. And you have to be yourself. You have to be who you are. You can't pretend to be from a different background. You can't pretend to be poor because you aren't poor. They know that you're there for a year. They know that you'll leave. And they will accept this if you are real, if you're honest.
Vista is an exchange. The Vista learns as he gives. He gives because he wants life to have meaning. He wants the world and his country to be a different, better place.